Hello, hello. Welcome again to another bit of this. I'm currently in the steps of rigging this this character I've labelled as the Colourful Boy. The reason I've called him that is because there's a grey version of him and this is the colourful version. And I'm in the process of making a master controller, a very simple one for his face, and I thought I'd just show you what I'm going to do for that. I've got a timeline that I've created. Ignore the complexity of all of this. This is utterly unnecessary, but this is just something that I use many times. But the fundamental thing is it's a single drawing layer that's coming through to a composite, and on that drawing layer, group, because I've grouped the drawing layer, there are markers that I've put for different stages of the master control positions. I have a front-on face, which is indicated by a little drawing I've done here. There's a sort of 45 degrees over to this way face. There's a front-on but tilted up face, and a tilted 45 degree face, and then a downward face and a downward 45 degree face. And that of course is either flipped, or you just move all the elements in the other direction a few frames later. So it's red, yellow, blue, red, yellow, blue. That's what I've set up as a sort of standard thing in my library that I just copy and paste each time. Now, what I've also started to do, which is also covered in my recipe book, Flesh Bee, is I've started to do this thing where each part of the body, if I use a master controller on the head or the upper body or the lower body, I have, I'll show you, pegs that control these things in a master controlled way. So you'll have a skull, for example, peg that moves the head around, and then you'll have a master controlled peg that also does the same job. And that way I've got the ability as an animator when I'm animating the scene to move it around, but then I've also got a master controlled version of that movement to do that as well. It separates that, and that way I can move things around without it pinging back to the original position, because the master controller can do that, and then I can do a sort of added movement on top of it. So it's an additional movement rather than a sort of substitutional one, if that makes sense. Anybody who's done master controller stuff hopefully will know what I'm getting at. I mean, I cover all this in the writings that I've done. Anyway, as you can see, anything that's going to be master controlled has got the suffix little dash with MCH, and that stands for master controlled head. So anywhere that I've got this, I've got this on purpose. And what I'm going to do now, what I like to do, is put all the master controlled pegs, a clone of each one, into another location, which will go here. This is where all the master controlled pegs clones will go, and then that way I can essentially see at a glance all the master controlled pegs and the keyframes and alter them in a sort of combined collected location. And it also means that I can put, because of that, I can put a master controller with them together, and I don't have anybody who's used master controllers will know that after a while you might have like loads and loads of these things, and they take up a huge amount of room in the puppet, and it can be a bit unwieldy. Whereas by putting them all together in one location like this, it means that the master controller that controls the pegs and deformers and all that sort of stuff is in with it as well, and I can move the group around the puppet and, you know, fiddle around with it a lot more than if I were to create a master controller that controls the bits and pieces of the bits and pieces throughout the puppet. I find it's a clearer way of saying what's being moved by a master controller. Now what I'm going to have to do to start with is I created a single peg. I'll just paste it in here. I think I can. Let me just wait for this to kick in. Hang on. All right, it's not doing it. Copy, paste. I pasted a peg that had that name on and then just added the text on. But you'll notice that all the time these did not have they didn't have that going on. I didn't press, oh dear, excuse me, my keyboard's misbehaving. I'll undo. There we go. Is my keyboard misbehaving? Oh no, it isn't. Okay. Anyway, yeah. When you click one of these buttons, you create a function for it, a Bezier function. And that means you can clone the functions that are contained. And if they're not done, that means you can't clone. Well, you can clone them, but you won't get anything sort of connected together. So if I cloned it, they wouldn't actually be linked together at all until I do that, and then I clone it. See what I mean? Just going to undo a few times. Now, before I start cloning anything and moving things around, I will make sure that the pivots for all of these are correct, because they're completely virgin pegs each time. So I've got to go through all of the head pegs and make sure that the pivots are in the right place. So I'm just going to quickly do that. So the ear will be over there, that will be over there, mouth be over there, eye would be over there, that one be over there, nose. I think that's everything. I think I've got a couple here, so the tongue will need to have one there. Cheeks again, I think that'll be fine there. I think that's all the ones that are in the mouth. Just save it. Done the ears. Oh yeah, quite a few in the hair. So just move. I can just about see it highlighted there. Like that. B like that. A. E is that one. And then the hairline is the entirety of the head. I think that's probably where I want it. Oops, hang on. That's the actual peg. I want that one to be moved. There we go. Did I accidentally? Yeah, that's fine. And then anything else? I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else that I need to fiddle around with. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I really do think that's everything. I'll just check one more time. Yeah, I can't see anything else. I'll just check an eye. Yeah, okay, so that's all done. Now, it's a quick and easy way of making sure that you select every single peg that you're going to put into this group. Before I do that, I need to make sure that all of these have got a function on them. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to go into display, just the normal display here. Going to collapse the colourful boy up, the group. Go to the collection here. Actually, to make this really clear, I'm just going to put a, just going to change the name of that. So it's Colourful Boy G, and then I'm just going to add a peg to that and change that to just Colourful Boy. There we go. And now I can collapse that up like that. And that white dot, if I select that, that's a collapsed group with the peg being on the top like that. I'm just going to hit add keyframe, and that will make sure, as you can see there now, let me undo that and I'll show you again. As soon as I hit create a keyframe, that means that everything contained within the hierarchies of that has now had all of its functions completely cemented. It's as if I've basically clicked on every single one of those in the entire puppet. Every single one of these will have that clicked, you know, because you've essentially created a keyframe for everything that can be keyframed. And that will now allow me to be able to clone everything happily, because they now all have things that can be cloned. So I'm gonna, I want to select every single master control head peg. And the way I'm going to do that is I go to this icon here, the select all nodes thing, and I'm going to type, and you have to get the case sensitivity right, so they're all capitals. Find anything that's got that on it. And now everything has got that selected. And I'm going to hit copy, which will mean clone. It's exactly the same thing. Then I'm going to go to this area that I've created here, and it's just this area. It's a Baker composite I've put here, and that's just a normal element node. There's nothing drawn in it at all. It's a drawing node that I've called pass through, and then it goes through to this display node has to be in the root of the puppet for this to work. Anyway, back inside here, I'm just going to paste it, and now inside this area, all the pegs have been placed. Now they're all a bit random at the moment. Now let's see if this works. No, it won't at the moment. I have to manually, unless there is some clever way of doing it, which I haven't sort of figured out, I have to manually connect all of these nodes up to this Baker composite. The reason it's a Baker composite is because a Baker composite allows the connection of both pegs and drawings. So if there's an element in your master controlled setup that has a drawing that changes, the great thing about this composite is that it allows both to be plugged into it. So this composite will do nothing other than to just show up on this timeline here. In fact, if I show the display of that MCH peg, so if we go here, so this is the display of whatever's inside this group, so we'll go into here, and I just open it up a little bit, we can now see all of the pegs that I have so far connected to this Baker's composite. If I unplug one, you see it's disappeared there. So this allows me, if I just get hold of all of these other ones, to connect every element that's going to be master controlled. So I'm just going to make sure that the input is at the very bottom or top. What should I do? Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll put that at the very top, and then it sort of disappears. It's sort of in that collapsed bit there, just the way it works. In fact, I might just do that, get it out of the way, and then just connect these up. Now, you can neaten things up and categorize things if you wish. Now, we've got two bee hair ones here, which is interesting. Why? Why has it done that? I don't think... Let me see what happens when I move it. So it wasn't bee hair, it was bee ear. It's interesting. Is there another bee ear? Have I just mislabeled it? I'll have a look in a minute. I mean, it's fine because I can just relabel it here. It won't make any difference. Just having a look round now at the thing. So let's just have a quick look at the original. I think I may have mislabeled one. Yes, I did. So that should have been called bee ear, not bee hair. That's it. And then if I go back into here and just relabel this as bee ear, MCH. There we go. That makes sense. So yeah, I knew that was the bee ear because when I'm doing that, that allows that to happen. Now, the reason why that's going backwards is because for anything that's labeled B, I've put a static transformation that reverses it. So in order to get the same effect with these cloned pegs, I'll probably have to put a static here. In fact, let's just try that. I think that's what I have to do. And I'll just reverse it. -1 now. Let's try it and see. Yeah, so that's behaving in a much more the way I expected it to. It's just the pivot's a bit funny. Whoops. Just maneuver the pivot. Going on. Yeah, better. Okay, good. Anything that's got like a reversed bit, so the eye is probably going to move in the wrong direction. Oh, okay. That's interesting then. Why is that doing that? Let me just check that. So I've got the static above the B ear. Maybe I should do it like that. Ah, that seems to work better. Let's just reset that one. Okay. And then get rid of that static now from here. So we're back to square one. Okay, so it's just the pivot is in the wrong place now. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it was just how that works. Anyway, it's fine. Right. Now then, I just want to check to see. So the BI works fine. Anything else that's sort of... Yeah, those are the only two things that have two things. Now, should I don't think these need to be connected in any way to the in. I'll just see what happens. Yeah, there's no real benefit to me connecting to the multiple in as far as I can tell. So that's fine. Then if I wanted to, I could use Baker Composites to tidy things up and to sort of make the relationships between them a little bit clearer here. It's not necessary, but at least you might want that. It's entirely up to you how you're selecting each part of the puppet. I think I'd like to do that just so that visually here I've got a clearer idea of what part I grab, because it's very important I don't get tempted in grabbing the body parts here, because what I'm going to be grabbing here, it would be eye's a bad example, but the nose, for example, I would be grabbing that. And of course I don't want to grab that, because that is the manual peg that I will be touching if I I get hold of the puppet. One way of making sure I don't get hold of things that I ought not to is by going here and putting a colour card over the top of the whole puppet like that. I've just got to move it forwards in Z, a little bit forward so it goes completely opaque, and then calm the alpha down to 0, but don't lock it. And that way, every time I try to touch the puppet, I'm not able to. I keep getting that, and that will forcibly stop me from grabbing hold of the character if I forget and I try to move it. Because what I really have to be grabbing hold of is the pegs in this area, and that way I can move them around, and these are the master controlled elements that I need to move around, and this is the only way I can get to them. So I'm just going to tidy up this area a little bit just to make things a little bit clearer for me, so that I know what I'm getting hold of. Again, if you've never made a master controller before, some of what I'm saying here will be so odd, but if you have made a master controller, I'm hoping that this will make more sense, and you think, this is a way to make things a little bit easier. Because, master controllers are a fiddly business, and the more you can sort of tame the process and make it more straightforward, the better, really. So I'm just going to put some Baker Composites in there for the ears. The hairline, I'll pop that there. And then the rest is kind of like a face, isn't it? So there, cheeks, mouth, nose, and tongue. I think that's it. There we go. It doesn't matter what order they're in at all. It's completely abstract. And then the skull, so that would be there, I suppose. Okay, well, I mean, that'll do. So that way, visually, I've got a very clear little area to grab hold of certain things. I could put backgrounds, backdrops on things, so that I say this is the hair section. I might do that, actually, just to make it a little bit clearer again. So this is the hair. And these are the ears, and these are the eyes, and this is the mouth. Well, that's not the mouth. So there's those 3. Just so that at a glance I've got a kind of console to sort of work with and just tap any element I want to move, and it just makes things a little bit easier again. Because the more things you can do to make life easier with master controllers, the better. So this whole timeline now shows only the elements that I need to move the head around, you see, to get it to the poses I want. So I'm happy with that. Now if we go to the first pose of what the master controller will be, it will be frame 100, and this handy little graphic that I created shows me the pose of the head. Well, it's already in that pose, so I'm just going to select all those pegs and hit that, and then that gives me my first position, you see, for every element that required to make the head into that pose. I then can go to frame 110, and I go down again, select that. I'm going to go here and select that, and then that gives me my sort of tweens that I can sort of see from one frame to another. And now I'm going to be in the process of moving the parts around to recreate that pose. So for the eye, I'm just going to move that over here, and that I'm going to move over here. I'm going to start doing a bit of that, and then I can sort of start looking around and see how that flows together. That's not bad. Now the nose, oops, needs to come over here, and oops, now I want to get a bit of shearing in here, so probably best if I use that. Shearing is not, there we go, like that, that's excellent. And then the mouth in its entirety will move over here. Move that like that. I'm not sure if you can do shear. Oh, you can if you do that one. That's it. Yeah, that's much easier. Okay. Now the cheeks, I think they're going to have to move in a slightly different way to everything else. So I'm just going to, this is going to be interesting how I do this. I think we'll probably get away with that. I mean, look, this is for a small commercially thing. This is, if I was doing this for a proper series work, this probably wouldn't cut it, and I would have to go in with deformers. But the fewer deformers, the better. Now, this is concerning, whatever that is. Let's try and get that nose out of the way to see what's going on. Okay. Can I cover it up? What actually is it? If I move the cheeks, okay. Ah, okay, so what's happening is it's that. Right, okay. So I need to be able to tackle that in some way. Basically what it is the lower lip has a shape, and that can probably be rectified like that. Now the eyes look a bit strange, so I need to shrink that eye in order to get it looking right. So that's it. I mean, I'm not too worried about the pupils looking a bit strange, because of course I can manually move that, so it's not really a big issue. That cheek though is really bothering me. So the problem is, of course, when I make one, what I want is that one to stay the same size and the other one to be bigger, but I haven't split the character up enough to do that. We'll see if is there a way that I can fiddle around with this, that I can get what I want without, because I don't really want to put a deformer in there. Whoa, Jesus. Ah, that's not too bad. That's not a bad compromise. Yeah, it's not great, but it's not a bad compromise. Hopefully with a bit of good animation you won't kind of notice. I think the nose is doing a bit of an odd thing here. There's a lot of backwards and forwards and sort of figuring things out, and you know, figuring out what works and what doesn't. That's good. So it looks like now his nose is actually travelling down his head, which I don't want. I'm probably going to have to put another element in there to to help combat what's going on here, because it just looks a bit strange, doesn't it? But that is kind of correct for the nose. I wonder if the mouth could benefit from a bit of that. Yeah, I think it could actually. You know, it's important to try and get as much out of the movements of these as possible without using deformers, because I think deformers should be a last resort. You know, deformers should be used by animators rather than riggers, really, on the whole, because they're so precious. You want to try and give that power over to the animator rather than use it all up for your own shape building reasons. Sometimes you can't get away from that, you just have to do it. But in fact, I might well have to do that for the actual head construction. I don't know. The skull, see, at the moment the skull moves everything, when in fact I really do need to change the shape of that, so I'm going to have to add elements in a bit. But let's carry on and go as far as we can, and then I can add some elements later on. That's not bad though at all, you know, considering I'm just doing that with, you know, with skewing things and stuff. I think that's pretty good. I'm just going to have another go at that. I've sort of undone something there because I think it looks better without it. Those cheeks. I really do think the only way I'm going to get around those cheeks is by putting some kind of deformer in them, because they just... it just always looks weird, you know. One looks massive and the other one doesn't, but I just don't have any means to correct that. You know, it's an uneven relationship, and one always looks... I'll just have to go with that for now. The hair, let's just see what happens. Now the great thing is, this is only a 45-degree head tilt. This is not a full 180 or 360 tilt. So, you know, I really don't need anything that elaborate. So you know, for something like this, you're pretty much asking for just a bit of life in the character rather than... Oh, which one is it? That D, that's it. Yeah, you're asking for life. You're not looking for total anatomical correctness. In fact, because that one's farther away, if anything, it needs to go back, actually. Oh, it's the wrong way around. That's it, like that. Like that. Which one is it? That one goes there. That one goes there. I might do a bit of rotation as well, just to make it look good. That's it. And then that one needs to go down and around a bit. The hairline, so that's all hair generally. I might need to change the relationships between them so that they are a little bit more independent of each other, because there's no benefit to the... Yeah, what I'm going to do is actually go to the fundamentals here of how things are put together, and instead of having the hairline move everything around, what I'm going to do is just connect it up like that, and that way the hairline will now only move that. You know, they're not moving in unison with each other. If I need everything to move, let me think. Actually, I know what would be better. I want that to do that job. No, I don't. I know. I want that to do that job, but I want that to happen. Or do I? Hang on, how do I want this? What I want is the master controller to move only the hairline, but I want to be able to, if I want to, grab hold of this and move everything around. So later on. So that is correct. However, whenever I want to grab hold of that, I won't be able to, because I'll be grabbing hold of the master controller one, not that. So what I need to do is put that there, put a peg transformation here, plug that in and then plug that into there. So that way the master controller will move the hairline around, but then when I grab that as an animator, I'll be moving that, which does move everything around. There we go, I think that's what I want. Let me just tidy things up a little bit. Okay, let's go back to that. Right, so now if I move that around, I'm able to move it independently, which is what I wanted. And I'm just gonna do a bit of that. Oh, sugar. No, see, this is what happens sometimes, that. But it's a lot clearer that I've got it on the wrong frame than it would be if it was intermingled with everything else. So this is one of the benefits of having just a separate timeline just for the master control elements. So I'm just going to move that over to there, and then they're all square again. And then I've got to, yeah, I probably need to put some kind of something there to adjust things properly, because it just isn't really cutting it, is it? I mean, it's not bad, but I need that middle element. I need it to be split into two, basically, so that middle element can move over with the center of the face. You see what I mean? So essentially, I want this part to move with the center of his eyes, and the only way to do that is like that. And of course, then you've got a bald spot, and it doesn't really work. It's almost what I want, but of course, I want that bit stretched. So I'm going to have to split the drawing into two parts with two different pegs that do something like that, and I might have to do the same thing with the cheeks as well, but I'll do that in a minute. Let me just get to this bit first. So the ears, I need to move around as well, pardon me, like that, like that. So that's almost finished, but now we need to go in and refine things. The skull may well need to have a similar treatment to what I've just done with the hair, because I don't really want to put a deformer on it. It's only a small movement, but I want to be able to grab hold of it and move everything around like before. So I'm just going to sort that out first. So at the moment you can tell that the master controlled skull is operating everything, but I don't want that. I just want it to move the skull itself around. So I'm just gonna again put another one of these on here, put it there, and then take that and put it there and plug that in there. Let me just tidy up again. I'm just gonna make this a bit smaller because it, well, there we go. I don't like these great big, that's it. It takes up a little bit less room. It's a bit easier to see what's going on. There we are. So now I should be able to, go in and alter the skull's position without affecting everything else, and I can now. So I will, first of all, I will change the position of the head, which would be about there. Then I will shrink it a bit. Then I've got to tilt it a bit, and move it over a bit more. Let's see. Oh, see, this is the problem again. Move that there. That's it. Let's see what's that looks like. That's better. Now the cheeks are not, you know, neither cheek is happy, basically. So I've got to do something about that and the hair. So let's start with the cheeks. The cheeks are going to be more difficult than the hair, because what I've done with this is split the drawing into several sub-art layers, and then these parts. So let me show you this is the entirety of the mouth, and each part is taking up a little part in a different sub-art layer, and then each of these are different parts that are let through. You see, so that's the line art, that's the overlay art, that's the colour art, you know, that sort of stuff. And I've labelled them with the part that they're doing. And it's the cheeks that I essentially want to cut into two parts again, and then move each cheek part differently. So I'm just going to tidy this up a little so that we've got a bit more room to play with. And then what I'm going to have to do is, first of all, cut the cheeks into 2 parts using a cutter. And then I've got to move those cut parts around. Now, I'm still, you know, is this the best way to do this? I'm not sure yet, to be honest. You know, I'm not sure. I'm trying something new. I may have to change this, but I'm following a thought. Sometimes it's instinct, and I've just got a thought about something. It's not a main character. It's something that I'm able to have fun with and play around with an idea. So it could be an over-engineered nightmare. It could actually work and be beneficial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another element in here. Element is a drawing layer. And I'm going to connect it up in the same way as the cheeks and plug it in here so we can see it and get it back to the first frame so everything's back to normal. And I'm going to, I think I've got on here, I've got a color cutter. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is select over the whole thing like that. And fill it with, cutter color. Yeah, just going to cut that and put it onto the line art layer so it's a bit more what I want. I'll just check that that's correct. Yeah, okay. So I now know that that's going to cover every element of that cheek and maybe other cheek drawings that I may have to do in the future. And to make sure that they are separated, I'm just going to cut. Now, what should I do? What I'm going to do is call it A cheek. And I'm going to create another element here. Just plug that one in and call it B cheek. And I'm going to take the artwork from here. I'm going to hold down Option on Mac, I think it's Alt on a PC, and try to get it in the midpoint there and let go. And then I've done it on the wrong one. I'll do it again. Do it on this side, that's it. Let go, and then cut, go to pick B cheek and paste. And that way I've separated that into 2 sort of slices, if you like. And then I'm going to use that to cut the cheek into 2 different parts. So I don't want to see these anymore. These things are doing something and they're going to be in exactly the same place as that. In fact, they have to really be from there if I'm wanting the cheeks overall to be doing it, but probably not. I'm probably going to have to create some more master controls, but for the moment. Cheeks there. I'm going to put 2 cutters in. Now, what I might do to clarify all of this is just group these things together. And then inside this, I'm just going to tidy all of this up. Actually, that is what I want. So both of them have got the same positioning means. And then I've got to do an input there, a blue input. So those are the 2 cheek things. Just going to go over here like that. Now these are not to be coming through the composite at all, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to plug that into there. And I'm going to call this group Cut Cheeks. And then the input will be the cheeks, so we've got that flowing through as we did before. There's nothing happened yet because the cutter isn't connected to anything. And then if I connect that, we now only get, if I do that way, we now only get the A cheek flowing through. So that's that, and then if I duplicate this, so we've got 2 cutters, and I go like that, and like that, we now get that. But the difference is we get the same result, but now it is split in some form. So we've now got 2 cheeks on 1 drawing layer, split by 2 drawings. that are cutting it in this way. Now again, it's very over elaborate. I don't know whether this is actually beneficial to anything, but it's quite a light thing that I'm making. I wouldn't normally go this cutter heavy, but I'm just trying an experiment. As I say, it might not be worth my time, but we'll see. Anyway, you know, I would not advocate this to anybody until I've really tested this, but I'm using this like I do often with my own projects as an experiment to see whether it's got any benefit. So I've got that, and now what I need to do is put some kind of peg transformation into it, so I can do it here as well actually. Let's just give myself a bit more room. I'm just going to say which one of this is. This is A cheek trans and B cheek trans. There we go. And then in order to move these around, I'm going to use, first of all, I want them to connect like that. You always have to put an insertion point, otherwise things can go awry. And then this is the bit that will be useful. I'll create a create a peg, call it MCU, no, MCH, sorry. Make it red so it joins everything else. And this time I have to manually do it. Actually, not just yet, because there we go. Right. Plug that in there. I'm going to duplicate that. No, I'm not. Hang on. Sorry, hang on. Copy. Get it ready for pasting again. And call that A cheek. And then paste and call that one B cheek. There we go. And then go through each one. Dip. Okay. Make sure the pivot's in the right place for each one. Let's say probably like we did for the eyes. Do it like that. I think that's probably the most beneficial. And then copy these, take them over to our little area and paste them into here. So we've now got a clone here and a clone there. And then because they're fresh, these won't have, as you notice here, they don't have any sort of starting places. So it's very important that they have one here and that they have one here. And then we'll create that. And then on this part, this is the bit that we move them on. Now, the reason why they've disappeared is because the, let me just go to it. Mouth, cut cheeks. The artwork here on the A and B is not, the exposure of which are not extended. So if I go to display and highlight them here, you'll see that it has a little image here, but nowhere else on the timeline at all. And that's got to change. They've got to be visible all the way through this timeline. So I'll just take these, move them to the beginning here, and then go all the way to the end of this and just hit extend exposure. And then that way the cutter, the shapes that will create the cut will be extended for the entirety. And now you can see that that's doing it all the way through. Now go back. This is what you have to know. If you're doing master controllers and you're adding new bits, you have to do this busy work. It's the law. And I know this may seem bizarre, but this actually makes it easier because it highlights the problems. Otherwise you're sort of hunting around saying, why is there a problem? So what I've done is I might, if I get rid of that, of course it doesn't get rid of the problem. What you need to do is I'm going to get rid of this, and then I'm going to get rid of the cheeks as a whole one here, and then they're back to normal, and then I can manipulate the cheeks individually rather than having them as you know, a whole, which doesn't quite look right. So go into Right, here we are, A cheek. So let's start. So A cheek. Okay, what's going on now? B cheek, is that moving? Okay, something's not quite right, is it? Okay, what is it that's not right? Because that should work, but clearly it ain't. Let's see, are these moving? Right, okay, so if that's not moving, then clearly there's something the matter with them generally. Let's see, does that move them around? No, okay. Right, that should work in theory, so why isn't it? Okay, that's moving the original one up. This is moving... I would have thought that would move it around. Why isn't it? Okay, I wondered if it was something to do with the way it's done. If I take these out, does that make a difference? Yes, it does. Okay, so it's something to do with the connection point is wrong. Ah, did I do it there? Because that's where it should have been. No, okay, so it wasn't. It's got to come from something, so I've got to connect it to R. If I do it to there instead, so what I'll do is the connection point of these has got to be included, otherwise you get some very strange stuff that happens. Pull them out there, and then connect it to the mouth, like that. Ugly as this is, that's the way it has to be. Just tidy things up. That's it like that. It's me being, must have every pixel lined up. There we go. Okay, this should work now. Yeah, there we go. So if I go back to my little world, logically I was correct. It's just the finicky nature of putting the sort of connection points back. It was sometimes it really is just a sort of, you've got to figure things out and try things. Okay, great. So if I get that and I move it like that, yeah, that's looking good. And the other one's actually not too bad on its own now, but I am going to nevertheless just squish it around a little bit. There we are. Now, out of curiosity, in this different pose, I'm wondering if these work, because what I did, I'm thinking the previous video, is I made something to create a sort of jelly-like face, and I want to see if that works in this different pose. Fingers crossed it does, I don't know. So I've got to turn off this colour card. There we go, and now I can manipulate things. Okay, it works and it doesn't work. Okay, so yes, okay. Right. Does it now not work when it's in that pose? Okay, so at least it's an equal opportunities bugger up. The reason why it's not working as well as it used to do is because I've had to do some cutting and stuff, but it's now gotten in the way of certain things. I think the top lip used to cover up the bottom quite a lot more, and the bottom lip went underneath quite a lot more, so that was the whole thing sort of worked better. So I've got to fix that as well, but it's not due to what I've done here. Also, it's interesting to note that the line of the cheek now is also playing a bit of a weird role. I mean, ultimately, do I really want to go in here and diddle around with every little bit? You know, to do it properly, this is the problem now with an unstylized face. This is the reason why doing stylized characters, ultra stylized abstract characters, is faster, because you're not having to follow the rules of anatomy and physics as neatly as you do if this character is supposedly existing in 3D space. The more closely the character should exist theoretically in the real world, the more fiddly the nature of the rigging has to be. And it's all doable, but it just takes more time to do. And I am trying to make this quickly. And I think I can get away with a lot of it. I mean, a lot of it's hidden by the quality of the animation that you do and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not too worried. I mean, that eye is shrinking a bit too much as well, which I'll fiddle around with now. But, you know, there are going to be things that you just simply have to fudge and make look good and all of this sort of stuff. It's just the nature of things, I'm afraid. That's a bit, yes, no. You know, it's as simple as that. But, you know, if you were animating this, you would not just do the master controller over there and say that's that. You would then animate it properly and come up with a few things to give it some life and maybe, you know, fiddle around with it even more. It's like when, you know, I've worked at, you know, Aardman and stuff like that, and they give you a mouth to put on a character that's made from plasticine. Well, you don't just bung the mouth on and say that's that because somebody told me. You then sculpt it a bit and you work with it. This is just to get you from points A to B quickly, and then you do more refining as you're working into it. It's to stop the work being quite so overburdened, you know. So I need to alter that cheek a bit. So yeah, unfortunately, you're getting that. I don't know. I mean, can I... If I... See, this is the other problem. We've got that now, you see, because that lip... There's a lot of interconnection between how the cheek's involved with the eyes and goodness knows what. It's you know, it's fiddly. And a lot of the time, you're in danger of animating something... So I don't even know if I did move the right bit then. You see how I've been accidentally possibly touching the wrong thing. This is the reason why it's so important to put that blinking thing on there. Can we turn it on, please? There we go. So that you don't accidentally get hold of things you ought not to do. I hope I'm all right. We'll find out. Anyway. Right, that ear looks weird. There's just going to be a lot of this now. Moving things around, shifting things out. That ear needs to look as if it's sort of coming in a bit more. La-di-da. I mean, there's the other thing as well, that you're creating something to look good, you know. Being anatomically correct isn't always something that looks good. If you cheat something and it looks better, then go with that. Case in point, Mario, the new Mario game, Mario Wonder, the characters have been deliberately designed to look good, but they don't look accurate. If you have a character 3/4, if you sculpted that in real life, it would look weird from some angles. You know, a bit Peppa Pig-like. We've almost got two eyes on one side of the head. But it looks good. You know, it looks right. It fits right. Go with that, you know. Okay, I think I'm happy with a lot of that. I think, you know what I mean? I think if I were in that position... To rig that properly, again, you would split the mouth into two pieces and do the same thing with the cheeks. Life's too short. I don't... Maybe I'll do that with a deformer. Anyway, the point is, I may just, like, you know, if I get a frame like that, just paint out a little bit of the cheek or something, you know what I mean, to get round that. Now, this is the other thing that I really do have to sort out, is the hair. So, just come out of here, go into the head... This is going to be a lot easier because it's not having to deal with splitting artwork and doing all sorts of funny things like I had to do with the mouth. And again, I've got to work into the mouth a bit to make that work. Anyway, this is the hairline. If we look at the artwork of the hairline, there we are. That is it. And what I want to do is split that artwork into two pieces and then move that around. So it probably won't be this anymore. It'll be, well, or will it? Actually, yes, it will. It will be. It will be that. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a element. put that there. I'm going to put another composite there so we know what we're dealing with. Come on, move that over there like that. I'm going to duplicate one of those, so get another one of those in there. Plug that in there like that. I'll call this B hairline. Pardon me, call the original one A hairline. And plug them in as so. There's nothing actually drawn on this so far. If I click on that, that's got all the art information, that's got nothing. And I'm gonna, in the drawing, it's very important that I do this drawing because this is totally unaffected by, you know, deformers or constraints or any kind of positioning. This is pure artwork, nothing else. And I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna, in the center of this, I'm just gonna try to get, there we go. Cut, paste, and now we've split the artwork into two pieces. And if I were to do that, they should be exactly the same, and they're not. Why not? Oh, because I haven't plugged. There we are. So they should now. They're now exactly the same. Now I've got to have a hairline that is. If I move that around, that moves both, and it moves in all the hair in its entirety. But I now want to be able to move each half individually. So I'm gonna just. And that also is the same problem. The exposure for that is only for that one frame. So I've now got to go to there, wherever that is. Yeah, you can see it there. And just drag it over to, oops, the original frame. And then go all the way to the end and go gadink like that. So now the whole timeline has got that exposed. There we go, like that. And then I want to create a hairline A and a hairline B. What I'm going to do is put the center point in that center parting part. And I'm gonna, now what should I do about this? I want the peg information to be exactly the same, the pivot information. So what I'm going to do is duplicate that peg, plug that in there. By duplicating it, it's got functions, but they are not connected together. And you see, that plus means that it has a twin somewhere. And you'll notice that this one does not have a plus because it doesn't have a twin. That one does in that composite with all these others, but this one doesn't yet. So that's good. We've got exactly the same pivot information, and it's the same movement information, I think. Maybe, I can't remember. Anyway, anyway, it's what we want at this particular moment. Now I'm just going to change this to say A hairline and B hairline. Just get rid of that one at the end. And then I'm going to now copy it, which means clone it, and move that over to here. Put that into there, plug it in, and then just rename the original one so it matches its twin. There we go. So now we've got the A and the B. Ignore the pivot for that is wrong, so I am going to just copy and paste that information there. Copy. Come on, paste. There we go. So now they are the same. Yeah, there we go. And then the only thing I've got to do now is for that one. Oh no, because I duplicated that, that also got that artwork. The pivot. What am I trying to say? The movement information in it. So now I've got to go through the process of moving them correctly. So what I probably will do, take it at this point, they kind of move correctly. Certainly the center parting is correct, but I now need to stretch the A one so that part is sort of meeting the hair. So I'm just going to get hold of that, and there we go. Yeah, so essentially we've got that. Now there's a little bit of ugliness there, which I think we're going to have to rectify. As for that one, I mean, because of the nature of his design, we can actually get away with that as if it's a piece of hair, you see. So I'm quite happy with that. That works quite well. And then we just need to fix this issue. Now the way I'm going to do that is very crude. I'm just going to go into the artwork of the hair. Where is it? Hair. Okay. So I'm just going to take part of that hair design and I'm just going to, holding down shift, I'm just going to pull that yellow over. And then same thing with the B one. I'm just going to pull that over like that. And then the only thing we need to fix now is this little gap here. If I select that and I just move it over and then select that and move it over, we've got something that's kind of all right. Can we get away with that? I think so. I think so. You know, worst case scenario, you can always fiddle around with it, but I think that's good. It's just more of an overlap now, and there's several hairs hiding things, so you know it's good. Again, I'm not looking for something perfect, because this is just something to make life a little bit easier for myself. Now I do think the mouth itself is shrinking a little bit, so I do need to fix that. So back we go into this. You often find that you're having to do a lot of this backwards and forwards for the first initial positions for a master controller, because you cannot anticipate every single thing that you're going to come across. It's impossible. So you know, that's the nature of the beast. Now B cheek, I'm just going to move over a bit, like that. Do that. I think that's good. Now the nose needs to go a little bit like that, and then it needs to go a little bit like that, and then it's just going up a little bit too much, so I need it to come down. There we go. Great. Now again, because this is coming up so often and I keep going backwards and forwards, I'm just gonna I'm gonna create a very quick master controller to be able to turn this color card on and off. So it won't take very long at all. I'm just going to create a checkbox widget on the color card that's stopping me clicking on anything, and I'm going to say enable disable node, and I'll just say don't touch. Oops. That's the label. That'll do. Doesn't matter where it is. This is just something to make my life easier. And on load, don't touch. There we go, like that. And then I'm just going to move that. Actually, I'll just do it with a static, because then that's much more helpful to me. I just want to move it to somewhere that's not going to be in the way. That's it. There we go. So now I can turn that on and off. So if I have don't touch on, it means I can't touch anything. But I do want to experiment with something just to see if it works. So yeah, okay. So what I need to be able to do, and this is just basically that the cheek and the mouth. Hello again. Yeah, seems to have a problem with recording things every now and again. It seems to be a glitch, so I apologise if it cut out at some point. I'm still in the process of just figuring out how this mouth is working and why it's not anymore, and I cannot remember what I did. Let me just have a look. We've got a constraint for the we've got a constraint for the head in its entirety. That's what that does, and we've got one there. That's fine. We've got one for the mouth, which this isn't actually a constraint at all. This is a weighted deformation. So let me see what they look like actually. So those are the points there, those are the points there, and if I move them around, I mean, turn them all off. I don't understand that if by connecting them all they don't move in unison with each other. That's what makes no sense. They're all coming out of the same part now and they're still not behaving. So I don't understand. It's like they're all one piece of artwork now and it's still not doing it. Is it to do with this? I wonder. If I take that away, let me just plug that in there. No, it makes no difference. Why is that happening? That makes no sense. Ugh. What are these actually controlling? Anything with the B on it, and the B is affecting that and that. They're both coming out of there like that. Now B is also somewhere else. I'm fairly certain it's somewhere else to do with I think it's to do with the eyes, isn't it? No. Constraints are. Yes. So it's in the eyes section, but, you know, who cares? It's got nothing to do with anything of that nature. This is very confusing. Literally, if I unplug that, I'm unplugging it entirely now, so we're not getting... These should not move now. If I move this around, these should not move, and they're not. Good. Okay. However, one is moving faster than the other. See that? One is moving faster than the other. Why? The lower lip is that, and it is moving. How is it moving? It shouldn't move at all. Oh, no, hang on. Sorry, it's the lower lip isn't moving, yeah. It's the mouth opening that's moving. And it's moving at a different rate as the top lip, I think. Yeah. So these are moving at two different rates. How is that happening? If we go to here, I mean, it's only coming through one thing. So I don't know how. There's literally nothing coming through there now. How is that happening? This is the strangest thing, honestly. They should move absolutely in unison with each other. There shouldn't be any reason why this is happening at all, and it is, and I don't understand why. See, this is what I have to go through when I'm writing these recipes. I can't just say, oh, it works. I have to understand why it works and why it doesn't work. It's clearly moving at double rate, so there's something doubling at some point. But there's nothing coming through there. A and B are not... They're not the same, are they? If I unplug that, let me just... I just want to see... No, it's still moving at a totally different... What is going on with this? Ah, that's what's happening. A and B is also used here to constrain the hair, and that movement information is coming through here in some form, I think. Let me take that out. So now that's not happening, and just move it around. It's still doing weird. Oh God, I don't know. Let me just straight in there. I don't want to see. I just want to. At what stage is this happening? It's so odd. It makes no sense at all. It's so weird. It's so frustrating. All right, I'm going to take the mouth out entirely. Plug it into just like the basic part. I'm going to unplug that. So we've just got the mouth. And now I'm going to move A around. Right, see, this is what I'm supposed to see. So this is what makes sense to me. It's moving in tandem. That makes sense, all right? So now if I add this, and then I say, okay, I want certain parts of it to move at a slower rate. I say cheeks and lower lip. Like that. Which is what, again, I want. I want this. The cut cheeks and all of this and whatever. But yeah, so you've got something that's happening at different rates. Why is that happening? I'm starting to wonder if there's a glitch here because there's no reason for what I've seen. It doesn't logically make sense, and I've discovered that that's true. You know, it's making sense here. They're both moving correctly at the same rate. And then for some reason, here, with everything else in it, that's not the case. I move it around, and that doesn't happen, as you can see. So something at some point is making certain parts of this move wrong. And I don't know why. Let me unplug the... You know, at this point, I just... No, that's not it either. I have no idea why this is doing this at all. It's so weird. It doesn't make any sense. I do think there's a glitch here. Because I'm running out of reasons to justify what's going on. It doesn't make any sense at all. Because good Lord. That's just neatening things up. That's just, you know, making things look nice. That's not... Lower lip. I mean, that makes sense. Have I got something going on? I mean, I can understand if the limit was doing something, but... Oh, hang on. I've had a thought. Well, no, that doesn't make sense either. At the moment, I'm just trying to understand. The top lip there, the opening there, move them around using A and B, and they are not moving at the same rate at all. One of them is moving twice as fast. Which one? The lower... The opening. The opening is moving faster. If I unplug that, so now the opening shouldn't move at all. There we go. Okay, so that makes sense. The opening isn't moving at all. Then I plug it in, and now both of them are giving exactly the same information, and one is moving faster than the other. There is no reason for that to happen, since they are both coming in at exactly the same part. See, I can't speak properly now. The only reason why that might be the case is if there's something weird happening in this somewhere. That makes sense that these two are different in that way, because one, yeah. No. They're not scaled differently or anything like that on any fundamental basis, so nothing makes sense. Fourth, let's just, out of sheer curiosity now, that shouldn't make any difference at all. That should just move things backwards and forth. That's all that means. Nope. I mean, I'm getting desperate here, trying to figure out what on earth this is. Just tidy that up a bit. I don't know. It's not this, is it? Let me just see. It's not that, is it? No. It shouldn't have been, but it isn't. Let's try connecting it up direct like that. No. Okay. I really am running out of options here. Let me plug these both into that. Nope. I mean, I'm doing the mad thing. I'm doing things like a mad person now. I don't know why this is happening, and I cannot figure it out. Anything. Oh, it's so horrible when it hits me. I will now know. I could understand it if that was plugged in some form or doing something clever, but there's nothing happening. To the point now where should I just delete this? It literally doesn't exist now. So this is the only way to deform that's coming through. Only this is happening through here. It's still moving at 2 different rates. I mean, where is it getting its information from? They're both... They're both coming from the same part. Let me do that just to see. What is going on here? This is why I like simple, non-stylized characters. Not, when they start getting fiddly, they just I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. I better undo a few steps actually, because I'm losing parts of my rig here, which I've taken a while to put together, but I don't know. This is making no sense, and I'm going to try something now to see whether or not it's a glitch. I've had moments like this in the past where I'm thinking I just am bashing my head against a brick wall and I cannot figure out what is going on. So I'm going to quit it because I have a funny feeling it's a glitch, but I don't know. Let's have another look. So I'm opening it up. There. It's not making the slightest shred of sense. Let's go to where I was. Go in here. Go back to where we were. Mouth. Move it around. There we go. I am justified. I'm exonerated. So now it's moving correctly. So it was a glitch. I was right. I'm not going insane. It was a glitch. What seemed to have happened was that it was reading old information about how it was supposed to move and just not updating with the current stuff. There may have been a way to correct it by forcing it. If I were to plug it all into the deform slow, maybe it would thought, oh, hello, I've got to do it differently, and then some sort of cache, some memory cache would have been sort of flushed out. Maybe, but yeah, this is making sense again. Thank goodness. Yeah, my life makes sense again. Okay, so if I were to plug everything into that way of moving, it's making sense in that way again. Thank the Lord for that. Okay. What I'm going to do is plug it in to how it was to start with. There we go. So now we'll get pretty much what we had to start with, but oh, now that's looking good again. Okay. Out of curiosity, what are the rates here? 70. So this is exactly what I created, and it was just doing some weird crap. Okay. Okay. I just have to accept that the software needed to be reset. I knew there was something weird going on. It made no sense logically, and I'm totally exonerated. I do know what I'm talking about. Hooray. Oh, thank God. So the question I had originally, before all of this madness happened, was when I move it in a different pose, does it make sense? And it does. Good. Oh. You know, that's my advice to anybody who's struggling with ToonBoom or any other program for that matter. If something's not making sense, maybe it's because it was the computer's fault. Maybe it isn't you, it is the computer. Just try these things, you know. It's computer says no. There we are. That's much more what I was wanting in the first place. Okay, so it wasn't me, it was it. Hooray. I think I'm going to leave it on that. My sense of exoneration. Basically, what I can't do this in front of a camera at the moment. But basically what I'm going to do for the rest of the poses is I'm going to copy and paste these. I'll do it once just to show you what I'm going to do, all right? But I'm quite happy, pardon me, with where that's going. Actually, I might just alter that skull pose a little bit, just so that, whoops, so that we get more of that sense of it happening. Just a minute. If I move that over like that, and move it more like, oops, like that. That's more what I want. And then I've just got to move that ear along. Oops, that's not what I wanted. There, like that. That's pretty good, actually. I think the eye now needs a bit of adjustment. That needs to be done like this. There we go. I think that's pretty nice. That's nice. Okay, so what we need to do now, I wouldn't say that, I mean, the other thing, I suppose, if this is what you need to be aware of as well, for some constraint points, if you're moving the head too much, the constraints will start to misbehave. So, for example, this constraint is fine front on, but does it work here? It's fine. For the eyes, because that's happening before these constraints happen, that will also work, you see, because the constraint points will be moving they'll be moving around with the movements of the master controlled eye. However, these ones are being moved around by something that isn't being master controlled. So I don't know. You could master control these points so that they move to a more correct position for the cheeks. But as I've discovered when I was fiddling around, they work. It's fine. It's not a big problem. There may be an issue when you're moving the head to different positions that you need to have a master controlled A and a master controlled B for these cheeks. You know what I mean? It's fiddly. That's what I'm saying. Master controllers are fiddly because they affect so many elements that you don't really think of when you're first putting them in. You need to think of them as controlling top down. And because these constraints that I've put in for the eyes, for example, because when I move these around, they affect the eyes, as you can see, but they are not being moved around. The pivot points for these are not being moved around when the head is, but I think they're moved around so small, you know, we're only doing 45-degree head movement. It should be fine. I don't think there's really any worry about it, but that is something that you would have to think about. My brain's turning to jelly, like it always does when you do master controllers for too much. Anyway, what I'm going to do is just show you how to do to get it from place to place. So all I do, I'm happy now that all these master controllers are in the right places for the first 2 positions, from position 1 to position 2, like so. I think that is good for me. So now I'm going to take all of these, I'm going to go copy, move it to where the next positions are, and paste. And then I'm just going to get rid of all of these nastinesses. So we've got the same movement happening here. And now what I need to do is do an up position here and an up position here. So I've got the first basis of everything, and then I need to, I wish I hadn't pressed that accidentally. That's showing me what this position and the timeline should be. So I've got them into the first kind of positions with those keys that I've already copied over, but now I need to shift everything up. So I'll just demonstrate a little bit with some elements of it. So for example, for the face generally, I need to move the, let's start with the nose. I move the nose up. I'm just going to turn that on so I don't accidentally move things. So the nose, I would say, needs to go up like that. I'd say the mouth needs to go up like that. I'd say the eyes need to go up like that, and then they need to be squished a bit like that. So, and then to see the comparison between the first position and that, I'm just going to take these frames again, copy them, paste them to a position like that, and then I can see the comparisons. If I were to move the master controller from neutral to upwards, I can sort of see how it would look. And then I'm gonna, for the hair, I'm gonna move that down a bit like that. Now this is, hang on, sorry, hair down like that. And because I want to do it for both hairlines, I'm gonna select them both and do that. And for the skull, I want to use the, do that. Whoa. Sorry, and do that. Now that's not what I want. Why can I not? There we are. Like that. And then you can sort of see, there we go, that's sort of the effect you would get. And then because that doesn't work, I need to move those up a bit. And then probably squish them a little bit like that. So you can sort of see how those, the relationship between those two move. Clearly the eyes are still poking out, so I need to do something about those two. And then see if that still works. I probably need to move the nose up more because that looks as if they're squished. I need to move the mouth up more because that's looking a bit wrong as well. And now I need to pull that down. No, not there. There we go, like that. So there's a lot of figuring things out and the proper relationships between them. I need those to come up. I need that to swish down. And then I've done it too much, so I need to have that come down, blah, 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 blah. Some of it is anatomically correct. Some of it won't be anatomically correct, but it will look right. So there's quite a lot of that. I might as well finish it since we've gone this far. So the ears usually come down because they're sort of past that pivot of this. If you imagine the center of the head having a pivot, they would actually look as if they're going downwards. And that hair tuft, the ear one, that hair one there, would probably come downwards like that. There we go, like that. The A hair, B hair, D hair would probably, what would that do? Yeah. And what I've got to do with the D is also do that. And do a bit of that so it sort of looks correct. The C, probably that. There's a lot of backwards and forwards to try and figure out the best positions for these things. A, you know, again, you're not looking for something that's perfect. You're looking for something that works. I would say those cheeks looking a bit ridiculous actually, so not quite as high up as all that really. And again, you're not looking for something that's absolutely correct. You're just looking for something that will get you from A to B comfortably. I mean, I might calm those eyes down a bit. I think I've pushed them a bit too far. No, that's it. There we go. The nose needs to come down a bit, I think, because I just think I've pushed that a little bit too far. There we go, like that. I think that's pretty good. I would say the eyes need to just be squished a little bit more, just so that the brow doesn't go over the hairline, and then I think the hairline needs to be squished and moved up a bit, like that. And then I can see a bit of yellow coming through there, so I've got to do that. I think it's the E, isn't it? And then just move that like that. There we go. And then you've sort of created a false sense of the head rolling back. I might do something clever with the skull so that it goes downwards. There we go, and you sort of created an illusion of a kind of neck. There we go. I think that'll be good. And then you've got to do the same thing where you've essentially created the head tilting in this way. I'll just demonstrate. So the skull has got to rotate a little bit like that, as has everything else. And one way you might be able to do that is by grabbing hold of pretty much all the elements to start with, giving them a pivot that you're comfortable with. That won't work, will it? Yeah, that doesn't really work, does it? Okay. Why doesn't it? I mean, one way you could do it is have another master controller just for things like this to tilt it all round, so that you have got a hierarchical thing that does this job. That would be an easier solution, and I might need to do that rather than having to move every single little element. I will do that now, actually. Annoying. Okay, right, back we go through the head. I've got to put something that'll do that probably at this point. Let me see. No, not at this point, so it'll be here. So that one does the skull on its own, and this one would move everything in unison. So I need to put one here. So peg, plug it in there, call it whole skull, MCH, red, bit. Copy it. Oh, hang on. Not doing that yet. I just want to make sure the pivot. Oh, the pivot is in the right place anyway. So copy it. Go over here. Paste it into there. That'll do. Plug it into there. And then, like we did before, make sure there's a one there, one there, one there. Got more to do because you've already done all of this stuff. It's totally unaffected for those positions. Again, that one's unaffected, that one's unaffected, but then this is where it starts to actually do something between this and this pose. So at this point, I now use this to rotate it all in the correct direction. So we've got that happening now, and then I've got to do the process of moving the eyes up and everything else like I've done in the previous step, so that it's sort of three-quartery kind of looking up like that. So the nose would be over here, the mouth would be over here. So you've sort of got that. The head is now sort of stretching up, which I don't want to happen, so I'm going to use the skull and shrink it down. Same thing for those two. I need them to shrink down and move down like that. And those eyes need to do the same thing again. Like that. And then the same for all of this hair. So that needs to all come down. The E hair needs to move over like that. I think I can do that, can I? I mean, I can, so I'll do it like that. There we go, that sort of works. Need to really do it on an individual basis like that. Whoops. So there. There we go. If I had, again, a bit like the whole skull thing, if I had one peg that in the real puppet world, so to speak, operated all of them, then I could just move that one peg around and it would move them all in the same rotation, but I don't. They all have their individual little rotations, so I've got to do that individually to get the same effect. I mean, that's fine, that works. And then that eye looks a bit strange, so I've got to move that around. There's a lot of this fiddling around that one has to do to make it look right. The skull, yeah, it's about right. And then I need to, do that, move it over a bit, and then again do that. Sorry, not that, that. Move it a little bit like that. You know, there's a lot more fiddling around when you haven't got deformers to work with to make things look good. There we are. The nose, I think, needs to come over a bit. The mouth is sliding down the face in certain parts. Yeah, it's getting smaller, so I need to make that bigger again. And the eye needs to come over. I don't know, there's something not right. I think the eye's shrinking. There we go. Make that, there you go, like that. There we go. I think that's not bad. I mean, it's a bit weird looking. I think, oh, the hairline, if I grab hold of both of them and rotate that and then move them like that. If you're wondering why this is able to work in Harmony, it's because both their pivots are exactly the same. So when I'm rotating them, they are moving in one because both their rotation points are exactly the same. There we go. So essentially I'm rolling the head down, and then with both of these I'd like to just fiddle around with that midpoint. Oops, so that's not the way to do it. What I need to do is get hold of one and stretch. Actually, I've got to, this is how I've got to do it. I've got to move the midpoint over. Actually, if I move both of the midpoints over, so that's where I want the midpoint to be, and then I will stretch that over there like that, and then stretch that under like that. So we've got that happening. That's better. That's a bit more attractive. Okay, I mean, he still looks a bit peculiar with it, sort of, you know, funny chin he's got. I wonder how we can improve that. Probably with the skull changing a bit like that. If I just, oop, I can't do that. Can I just, even temporarily, I can't do it, which is annoying. I'll have to move it like that. Like that's fine. No. It's because I'm having to fake something that, you know, if you were to draw it, you'd know what to do. That's what you want, right? That sort of cheekiness, and then you would have essentially a line under there so that you're saying that. I'll probably have to do that. I think that's the reason why it looks odd, is because there's no line to separate the bottom of his head with the bottom of his mouth. You know, it all looks like one massive thing. And the ear now should really be in front of the hair. So I should do that and then fiddle around with it a little bit. I'll have to make some adjustments to the artwork so that it sort of merges in with the rest, and then this needs to really, I'm pushing this as far as it can possibly go, but it's not great. You know, ultimately, at this point, you really do need the head to be a totally different shape. It's no good to keep sort of stretching a shape. You need it to actually be a totally different shape. If I really, really, really cared about this, I would put a deformer on here, and I might still do that actually in my own time, because just to get that more nuanced, that shape, because it really does look peculiar. But I want to try and get as much of it as possible without doing a deformation, really. I mean, it's getting a bit ugly around here as well. I mean, to the point where when I'm animating this, I might not actually, you know, get his head ever in that position or in such a way where it looks strange, you know. I wonder if I can do a little bit of tilting like that so it goes with the shape. That actually looks a bit better. But you know, you really do need, I mean, if I were constructing his head, I wish I can I do that with anything? I just need to be able to sort of doodle on the screen really there. Can I do it there? Oh, it's because of this. It's because of this. Come on. There we go. There we go. Right. If I were constructing this head out of different shapes rather than deformers, I'd probably have to go like that, and then you've got that shape happening naturally. At the moment, I've just got one lozenge shape, and I might split the head into two parts so that you've got that larger sort of head shape like you do with a real skull, and then this sort of bit that tucks under as well. We'll see. I've got various possibilities, or I just put a deformer on it and tuck it in. I mean, that might be easier actually. Oh, and that ear needs to be sorted out. There we go. That's the same sort of thing. So yeah, there we go, like that. I mean, it's not too awful. It's looking better, especially since I've tucked the ear actually. But there's work to be done, you see. So you've got that. You've got that. Actually, that doesn't look too bad for what I'm going to do. And then, you know, various alterings to do. But yeah, I've got to do that process now for that part, which is the downward part. And then either I take all that animation and just flip it. I put a peg that flips the animation that I've done, or I manually move it into those positions. I think I'll probably do the flipping thing because it's just easier. But anyway, yeah, I'll figure that out on my own. If you want to see my mad ramblings, obviously go on Patreon. This puppet is going to be on my Patreon for you to study and have a look at, see where I went right, wrong, whatever. But I'm so glad that I was exonerated from that, because that was driving me insane. I didn't know what was going on. Yeah, good. I wasn't going mad. Look forward to seeing you again soon, and good luck. Bye.